Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another Breakfast with Jason. And I'm eating something slightly different today. As you can see, there's flank steak in my rice and vegetables, because again, people seem to care what I eat. The vegetables today, it's broccoli, carrots, and bell pepper. And people say, but broccoli's not allowed on the vertical diet. I'm not cutting on the vertical diet. I use the vertical diet to bulk. I'm using some of the principles of it, but I'm eating a lot more vegetables than you would eat on a lot more. And some of them are higher FODMAP, and that's fine. I'm not worried about broccoli bloat hurting my appetite and ability to eat 5,000 or 6,000 calories. But let's get over to the point of today. Something I see in the comments, something I see people out there say is that, it's just accessory work. And they use that as a cop-out. And here's the reasons I don't like that. You'll see it as cop-outs for something like, well, we can do tens at 50% while using, again, some of the classic lifts, right? 50% of your max for tens. You're not going to gain any muscle doing that, okay? Unless you are blasting gear. And when I mean blasting, I'm not talking about low doses because it won't work on low doses. Unless you're blasting gear, you're not going to gain any muscle at all from doing a few sets of 10 at 50%. 5 sets of 10 at 50% of your 1 rep max is going to give you zero muscle growth without drugs. You basically did some cardio. You did some nice conditioning work is what you did. That's what you did. You got your heart rate up. Got a little blood flow. We didn't hit upper threshold muscle fibers. How do you think you're going to get stronger off this? And that's one example. Another one, it's, we don't want too much weight on good mornings. We're not trying to win the good morning Olympics here. It's like, and again, people are taking that line and they get that from Wendler. And I actually happen to like Wendler. It's like Wendler as far as most of his basic principles. I don't want people to think I'm totally ripping on him here. Phenomenal expert on the bench press. But, say stuff like, well, there's no need to go over 225 on a good morning. What are you going to do? Sets of 50 reps? Okay, because sets of 10 with 225 for an advanced male lifter on a good morning is not going to do anything. It is going to do nothing to increase your squat or deadlift because it's lightweight. And if you're going to use lightweight, you actually have to get some real reps in. And someone who's got a 500 squat, if you've tried to do a good morning for sets of 10 with 225, and that was your main accessory, your squat's probably going to go down. You're going to get weaker because you're going to lose muscle. If you replace whatever accessories you were doing with that, and normally the good morning is a phenomenal squat accessory, one of the best, arguably the best. But if that's what you started doing for accessory work, don't cry when your 500 squat drops down to 450. Don't cry because that's what's going to happen. Because you're losing muscle. Why are we doing accessory work? Why do we do accessory work? To get bigger, okay? It's not just accessory work. It's basically disregarding hypertrophy and saying, well, size doesn't matter for strength. Well, if you jackasses actually believe that, then we need to remove all weight classes, right? The 130-pound men need to compete with the 400-pound men if that's the case. Size doesn't equal strength. And we need to just not bother with accessory work. If hypertrophy doesn't matter, we don't need any accessory work. You should just do maxes. 1 rep maxes is all you would ever need to do because that's where you get your neuromuscular efficiency, right? 1 rep maxes is what takes you up to your strength ceiling of whatever your potential is, off of your current size, leverages, etc. 1 rep maxes, that's what does it. So if you don't care about accessory work or size doesn't equal strength, because that is what that implies when people say, well, it's just accessory work, then why bother to do anything over 1 rep? 1 rep max is what develops your strength potential off of your current muscle, and if size doesn't matter, then you don't need to gain muscle. That really is the chain of logic you should follow. But it's nonsense because we know based upon the data your strength ceiling is raised for you personally. I'm not talking about comparing yourself to some guy who's 6 inches shorter than you with different levers. For you personally, your hypertrophy is what determines your strength ceiling. Accessory work is critical. Our volume work is absolutely critical for maximizing strength. It's critical. Tension matters for it. Weight on the bar matters. Quality reps matter. Let's come back over and discuss that. How do we get hypertrophy? Effective reps. And effective reps only occur when we are within 5 reps of failure. And if we have really fatigued, we don't get as many effective reps even if we were to hit failure because we're forced to use a lighter weight with less mechanical loading for the same number of reps. Actually, a lot of the data shows that when that happens, there's less hypertrophy. Not saying it goes to 0, but it is less. So essentially, when we start saying, oh, well, weight on the bar doesn't matter, I can do whatever, 10s with 50 or 60% of my max. You're going to need to do a lot of 10s for that to work. And here's my question, do you really want to do 10 sets of 10? And that hasn't panned out that well in the volume studies. So yes, you need to have weight on the bar. And I'm not saying that on all your accessory work that weight on the bar should come at the expense of range of motion or form. Although the case can be made in some cases, a lot of movement patterns, for a slight reduction in range of motion. Not talking about doing half reps. For more mechanical tension may actually produce more hypertrophy that's more specific to what you're doing. But I'm not saying that as a general rule we should do that. It should generally be full range of motion within your range of motion. Right? Your range of motion is not someone else's. We need quality reps. They need to be fatiguing. And they need to be fatiguing on set 1. Unless you want to do a lot of junk volume, you need to actually be getting pretty close to failure on the first set. Okay? If you're limiting the weight you're doing on good mornings, for example, which is again something people will say, well, you shouldn't go over this weight on it. Well, how many reps are you going to do? You're not doing 10s anymore, that's for sure. Because that's baseline. That's like intermediate strength on a good morning. To do 10 reps at 225, that's literally like 375 squat level. Okay, maybe a 405 squat level. And I'm not joking about that. Some of the people who start doing good mornings are like, you're crazy, man, 185 for 10's hard. Yeah, you better get that up to 275 for 10s. That'd be a good number for you to reach. We can't disregard this stuff, and it's fine. Now, if we're talking about single joint movements, that's totally different. You know what? In that context, if you're doing a single joint exercise, you can just take it to failure, right? You can take them to failure, and the weight probably doesn't really matter, honestly. But even then, you have to do hard sets. If you're going to use a light weight for a single joint movement and you're not taking those sets to failure, again, we come back over to you're probably not getting that much out of it. And there's not really the same negatives to going to failure on those that there is on a multi-joint exercise. And small stuff I'm talking about for your rear delts, for your curls, triceps, maybe some hamstring curls, right? Stuff like that. It's fine. But even then, the tension and the workload matters. The tension and the workload matters. And if you're disregarding that, you're basically just training lazy. And if you're training lazy, you're not going to gain muscle. You're not going to get stronger. Because if you're not gaining muscle, what are we relying on? You're relying on neuromuscular efficiency, intramuscular coordination, extramuscular coordination. This is what you're relying on, which we need, but that's the finishing touches. The base is built off accessory work. So when people try to pull that, well, it's just accessories. Accessories are what build your foundation for your strength. They're kind of a big deal. Your volume work is kind of a big deal. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.